If you're worried about your blood pressure, or you simply want to reduce your risk of cardiovascular disease, you may want to pay attention to your sodium to potassium ratio, because a high sodium to potassium ratio is correlated with higher blood pressure and an increased risk of cardiovascular disease. This is because potassium has the capacity to increase sodium excretion at the level of the kidney. But potassium restriction or a potassium deficiency actually increases sodium and chloride retention. This increased retention increases fluid retention, therefore increasing blood volume and increasing blood pressure. And this elevated blood pressure is the underlying mechanism by which a high sodium to potassium ratio increases cardiovascular disease risk. And here are the scary statistics. It's recommended adults consume no more than 2,300 milligrams per day. However, on average, Americans consume about 3,400. A daily value for potassium was set at 4,700 milligrams, but was lowered because it was simply difficult to reach. But on average, the daily potassium intake in the U.S. population above the age of 2 is 2,496 milligrams, essentially half the daily value. And in the grand scheme of things, while lowering your sodium intake can help improve your sodium to potassium ratio, simply increasing your potassium intake may be a more feasible strategy. I find the best results come between a ratio of 1 to 2 sodium to potassium or 1 to 3 sodium to potassium. For example, for every 2,000 milligrams of sodium, you would consume 4,000 milligrams of potassium to get you a 1 to 2 ratio. And to get a 1 to 3 ratio, for every 2,000 milligrams of sodium, you would consume 6,000 milligrams of potassium. And I typically reserve this recommendation for those who already have pre-existing blood pressure abnormalities. With that being said, it's slightly difficult to get a high potassium intake strictly through diet. But easy swaps would be swapping out your rice for something like potatoes, consuming more salmon, consuming more yogurt, and making the majority of your fruit and vegetable sources from the list above. The second option is potassium-enriched salt substitutes, either replacing table salt or simply making a 50-50 mixture, as we do have fairly consistent evidence indicating that potassium-enriched salt substitutes are an effective strategy to lower systolic and diastolic blood pressure. So while you may have heard of sodium restriction before, potassium enrichment may be just as, if not more, effective. With that being said, if you would like an individualized approach to your nutrition and lifestyle to optimize your health, energy, and body composition, send me a DM to sign up for coaching.